Hi, and welcome to Stitching with Cindy Botts. Today I wanted to talk to you about Crazy Quilts. Now, I used all cotton fabrics. These are scraps, and more scraps, and leftover pieces from many different projects. So, the traditional, way back in the day, Crazy Quilts had lots of embellishments and different fabrics, velvets, and all sorts of fun stuff. But this is mine, and it's just trying to use up some of the stuff from Mount Scrapmore. So let me go back so you can see kind of a, I'm going to flip you. Hold on. So this is the top, and it's just laid on my couch. That's maybe 50 by 50. I'm not quite sure. We might put a small border on it. Again, we're not sure exactly where we're gonna have this be called home. Thinking about it being a donation quilt. So we're not sure about the borders yet, but that's okay. What I want to talk to you about is the quilt top itself and just show you a few things that are in it. So there is a pinwheel. There's part of a 9-patch. Ooh, there is most of a 9-patch. And, oh, that was an hourglass. That was a snowball piece. Another pinwheel. I thought I saw a flying geese in here somewhere also. Another hourglass. We have just squares in a row, lots of different fabrics, and just leftovers. Here's some more just squares. So what I thought I'd tell you is about the quilt. So to make this quilt, I made 9.5-inch blocks. So I thought I'd lay this paper down just so you could see where some of those blocks are. So there is one of the blocks. Kind of funky looking. Let's pick another block. Let's see. Let's just move down some. And here's another block. And you'll just lay these on here so that you can see the block. That's another block. So I just built up, starting with some scraps, just built and built and built. And then I would square it up using my square ruler, and you can see that square there, and the square here, just so you get the idea that I just made these 8.5-inch or 9.5-inch squares. Okay, and then it was just a row of squares with a row of squares, and that's how I put that together. Now, the other quilt top I want to show you, I did again with the Crazy Quilt style, but I did not assemble it in rows. So that I made in just squares. Well, I did do it in rows, I'm sorry. I did not assemble it in squares, but in rows of rectangles. So what I did here, let me back you up so you can get a good picture of this one. This has a lot more just little scrappy pieces. Triangles and rectangles and squares. Okay, but for this one, I wasn't squaring them up. I was making 12.5-inch strips. So I used long strips. Here's a long 12.5, or I used wide and narrow strips. Here's a 12.5-inch strip that is kind of narrow. Here is one that's a little wider. All right, and then I just, here's a nice, let me show you this one. That's a nice wide one. Okay, so I just made them any old width, but 12.5 inches long, so that I could make my rows. Okay, make my rows a 12.5-inch long instead of blocks. And then just to be, I don't know, however, I did Some of the rows are 12.5-inch rows going up and down. And then I have some rows that are going 12.5 inches sideways. You know, just made it different. It is a crazy quilt. And I am quite happy with how it turned out. So if by chance you didn't see my other video where I talked about making the blocks and the rectangles for my book cover, let's talk about it now. So here's another piece that I've constructed, and this one is probably 24 by 12. It's a nice piece of material that I made there. All right, and you can make them by just adding squares to squares, adding a half square triangle, just working your way up using rectangles. Just put those right sides together, add your 1.5 inch seam, press it, add the next one, press it, add the next one, until you got a nice long row of 12.5 inches, if that's what you're going for. You can do a wide 12.5 inch and start with your half square triangle and your square, but then build on the other sides of it and just keep adding your pieces. So for this one, we would just lay it right sides together. So the 1/4 inch seam there, fold it back, and then keep building on. And you can keep building on like a braid. You can add onto your triangle slant or diagonal. Could add a row of squares and then another piece. It's just so different. You can just do it however you want. Whatever scrappies you have that you're pulling out. Here I pulled out the flying geese unit, added a triangle to the top. So for this one I was working lengthwise. Now you could very easily use your ruler here to chop this off and give it a nice straight edge. So just line it up there, give it a nice straight edge, and then add on a side piece to make it wider. So now you're working on a wider piece. Okay, sky's the limit. You can make so many things with it. Again, you're just taking and adding pieces and just working your way up, working your way across, however you feel more comfortable. This one, to make it wider, we added side strips, and then we added a bottom strip to the sides. So there's just so many things that you can use: squares, triangles, pinwheels, everything. So I hope you enjoy this little video on the use of your scraps. And this is real scraps. We're not talking, having to use your 2.5 inch squares or your 2.5 inch strips. You can use anything. And it's just great to use up a lot of the really small things that just don't otherwise have a use. My puppy definitely wants out. So I'm going to go let out the puppy, and I hope you have a great day. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon. Bye now.